This motherfucker was, in my eyes, one of the biggest fucking dudes I've ever seen. You know, I would be like, God damn, he just fucking took his shit, didn't even say nothing to him, you know. So he had like no fear, just the way he talked to the other races, like, nah, this is what's gonna go down, this is how it's gonna be.
Tell us that story about that.
He had a swastika on his back, he was riding with the white boys.
He even was on the news at one time.
Yeah, it was famous. It's on YouTube. He shows a big old Samoan running the freeway.
Dirty to lie.
You know, I'm an other. I ran with the others in the penitentiary. So there's a lot of others who are watching this too. What did you see as far as the other car, you know, with your experience, your 23 years of experience?
80% of the time, they were a good unit. They were respectful. They did their thing, you know. So it was almost to the point where I never paid attention to anything illegal they were doing. I never really paid too much attention to them. Every now and then you would get a young other that was a crip on the street that he felt like he had to be tough. You know, a lot of the others were usually pretty humble, you know, were real respectful, you know, never got out of line, never really drew my attention. It was more like a regular conversation with those guys because they just programmed. But every now and then you would get like a little crip. I remember this one crip, he came in, he was a Puerto Rican and Samoan, but he ran SOS. But real brash, real arrogant, you know, always walked around with no shirt. I mean, he's a big dude, and you could just tell, like, he he was still in that prison mindset where he was like, you know, he wanted to be a soldier instead of, you know, programming. And I noticed that, you know, the others, he couldn't hold cellies for too long. So I don't know if it was because of him being real, you know, maybe trying to be a bully. You know, sometimes the Samoans, you know, if they're bigger dudes, and I kind of noticed they would bully some of the others. You know, they would act like bullies with them and shit. You know, but some that, you know, that was a few times I've seen it. They just were straight bullies. They just do what they want. Like they didn't give a shit. Like, you know, I would be like, God damn, he just fucking took his shit. Didn't say nothing to him. You know. Yeah, I would notice that, but 80% of the time, the others, they're a pretty tight knit group, pretty tight. They were all down to ride for each other, regardless of the numbers. You know, they would hold their own. You know, that's my experience with the others. You know, easy to talk to, bullshit with. You know, I man, they just program pretty much. Program, you know.
We were talking about you and me about how when you first saw one of the Usos on the yard.
Yeah. 1996, 97, you know, one of the first year on the yard, you know, I get assigned to the yard and I'm walking to the yard and I see this dude working out. And this actually encouraged me to start hitting the weights more because I realized this was a big motherfucker. This motherfucker was, in my eyes, one of the biggest fucking dudes I've ever seen with muscle tone on him. Not only that, he was fucking doing pull-ups like nothing. And he had that fucking tattoo on his stomach that said "no good." I'm like, oh shit, that's a pretty fucking dope tattoo at that, you know. But I just remember seeing him, and I was like, holy fucking shit, That dude is a fucking monster. And it, I, I started, I used to work out, but not like dedicated, but shit like that got me working out, man. I went and bought some fucking creatine, fucking all the fucking supplements, started hitting my arms 3, 4 times a fucking week, going to the gym because I was like, you know, I always imagined myself having to fight these dudes. That was, man, it was no joke, like no joke. You know, that was like a big motherfucker. Him, I came across an individual named Frank Lomelli. He was another big fucking Samoan. He was a porter. He worked in the building, but just his presence and how he talked to the Southsiders was really more impressive because it's like he didn't give a shit. And his thing was like, man, I was in the county jail in the 80s, man, and a lot of times it would be like 6, 7 of us against fucking 40, 50 fucking Southsiders. So like he had like no fear, just the way he talked to the other races, like, nah, this is what's gonna go down. This is how it's gonna be. And I remember him clearly. We talked about Samoan Pete.
Mm-hmm.
He was a skinhead.
Tell us that story about that. Because I had heard about Samoan Pete, man. I heard he had a big old swastika on his back.
Yeah, he had a swastika on his back. He was riding with the white boys. So fast forward, he comes back and he's celled up with Nightmare from, I don't know, Nightmare's from Hawthorne or from Long Beach. Find out from the others that he was the real deal. You know, he had the keys to the yard for all the others. Pretty much they just told me, you know, you to do something, you got to do it. He had Pete in his cell, and I pull him out, like, hey, this dude's a white boy. He goes, nah, man, he came back home. I go, what the fuck you mean came back home? He goes, well, he went to Calipat, and the Usos in the hole brought him home. I go, he got that swastika on his back. He goes, no, he don't. Go look, it's covered up. Sure enough, he was back home.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
He even was on the news at one time.
Yeah, he was on the news.
Speed chase or something like that.
Yeah, it was famous. It's on YouTube. She was a big old Samoan running the freeway, jacking a van or something. Yeah, he didn't talk much. He kind of had a chip on his shoulder, so I never really had too much interaction with him. Mm. But yeah, he came back home. He said, like I said, with when we were talking about Nightmare, he ended up going to Kern Valley, ran into a few of my folks there, and he ended up taking flight in the day room with some whites because they were trying to take the others off the yard. So they shipped him up to Salinas, last I heard, and he, you know, has that in his chrono, like, you know, can't be around the skinheads. Then I talked to a skinhead that had a lot of juice. He came through and he pretty much validated that, you know, yeah, he's high up on the skinhead or AB or whatever they call it, skinhead hit list because of that situation in Kern Valley. So that was a trip, you know, and I read that in the file too.